Amiga, do you ever feel caught between two worlds? You cherish your cultural background, but sometimes it clashes with the realities of raising a family in modern America. You might feel pressured to fulfill traditional expectations, yet you crave a life that allows you to be your true, authentic self. If you're a Latina mom nodding your head right now, I see you and I get it. Balanced Madrehood is more than your average mommy coaching program. It's a supportive comunidad designed specifically for you. I understand the unique challenges you face navigating between generations and culturas while forging your own path as a mama. Stop feeling like you have to choose between your roots and your future. Balanced Motherhood empowers you to create a life that celebrates your heritage, embraces your motherhood journey, and prioritizes your own happiness. Spots are limited. Don't miss out on this opportunity to connect with a supportive community and create a more balanced life. Visit the link in the show notes to join the waitlist for the next Balanced Motherhood cohort. I can't wait to meet you. You're listening to the Viva la Mami podcast, a podcast about all things motherhood. I'm your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of one on a mission to redefine the meaning of motherhood as a first-generation, bilingual, and bicultural Latina mommy. Regardless if we feel like a failure from time to time, or if we succeeded with the little things in our motherhood journey, it is important to celebrate all of these experiences as madres. So, bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space and create raw and honest conversations about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. Hola, hola, amiga. Today we are welcoming mi tía, Gabriela Serna. My tía Gabi is not the type of tía you may think of. I consider her the cool tía, the one that you trust and that you look up to. After all, she's only 6 years older than me, and because I am the oldest daughter of 3, mi tía Gabi was like my big sister. In this Viva la Mami Spotlight episode, and part 1 of 2 episodes, you will hear mi tía Gabi's story about having a neurodiverse familia and raising twins, one in which is neurotypical and the other neurodivergent. Quick definition lesson here. A neurodiverse family includes people with a range of different types of brain within a household. Also, neurodivergent refers to a person whose brain processes information in a way that is not typical of most individuals. As a Latina mom, mi tía Gabi not only had to advocate for herself and her children, but she also has spoken up for many parents she knows about breaking stigmas and taboos as it relates to mental disorders like autism and ADHD. I'm sure many mommies will be able to relate to her story, and I hope you get something out of this conversation I had with her. As mentioned, this is the first episode of 2 with mi tía Gabi. And this first episode is all about her children. And next week's episode is all about her diagnosis with ADHD as an adult and how she has navigated her motherhood journey as a neurodiverse family. Now, let's get into the first episode with mi tía Gabriela Serna. Hola, auntie. How are you?
Hi, baby, or mija, baby.
I know you always call me that. I want to thank you for being here because I think that your story is so worth telling, and I've been meaning to have you here on the show just because there's a lot of life experiences that you had, and I think that many mommies will be able to connect with you and resonate with your story about having a neurodiverse family. And so before we kind of delve into that and just like what your journey has been, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Chicago, and at about 27, after I got married, I moved to Bolingbrook, like the Bolingbrook area. I now live in Romeoville, which is where my kids go to school. I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 in November. So I'm here in Romeoville now because this is where Emilio has his his stellar program, which is what they call the autism program at school.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're the youngest daughter of
Of
5 women.
5. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And yeah, I'm the baby.
yeah, you're the baby. And my mom is your sister, and she's the oldest one.
She's my second mommy.
Yeah. Yeah, she
Mm.
definitely raised you, helped mis abuelitos, with you.
Yep.
So, yeah, and then we're not too far apart in age.
6
How
years,
far?
I think. So we were raised more like kind of like siblings in a way,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
like I used to fight with you guys when we were little. So, we
That's
had that
okay.
sibling thing kind of going on.
I don't remember, so it's all good.
Good, good.
Yeah, but I do consider yourself as like my big sister just because I don't have older siblings, I'm the
Yeah.
oldest one. So yeah, it's good. And just like all the memories that we've had, like all the influences that you've had in me, like liking Mana and all
Getting
of the
your first
90s
guitar.
groups. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. And tattoo.
Yes, I
You
got you
bought
your
my
first
tattoo.
tattoo.
The only
Your dad
tattoo
did.
because
Your
it's
dad didn't
painful.
like me, but that's okay.
It's all good.
No,
Yeah,
he loves me.
so
He loves me.
oh, of course. Yeah, we all do. And so, yeah, like I appreciate you being here porque a veces we don't have the opportunity to really talk about, our story kind of in a nutshell. Like, yes, we
Mhm.
see each other, we connect. I think the reason why you're here and I wanted you to be here is to give you that space. And that way
Thank
it's
you.
out there for not only listeners to listen and connect, but also it can be kind of like a little momentum for you too to
Hmm.
keep because we need to acknowledge, embrace, and even celebrate, regardless if
Yeah,
we've gone through shitty times. I think it's definitely something that we need to acknowledge our lived experiences.
because we
And
learn from
so,
it.
yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So, can you introduce us to your familia, like your kiddos? I know that you mentioned Emilio, but if you want to
Yeah.
share us who they are.
So my kids are Emilio and Sofia. They are twins. They will be 10 next month,
Oh my gosh.
which I can't believe, and I'm not ready for whatever's coming my way. I'm still legally married, but I've been separated from their dad for 5 years. But we have a very good co-parenting relationship, which makes things so much easier for the kids because they've never had to be choosing sides or anything like that. So I still somewhat him in my family because it's us four. We just live in different ways, separate houses, and but we still consider ourselves a family. Like we are a
Mhm.
family, just maybe a little bit different than you and Alex and Baby
Mhm.
Bear.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, we're still a family. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, and I love how you co-parent and you're both kind of in the picture. Both are you in the
Hmm.
same picture as they are, which is great because I know that that helps a lot with working out logistics or
Everything.
yeah, everything, every little aspect of it. So, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
because even when like I've been sick, he comes over, takes care of the
Mm,
kids, or it's just one of those things that we chose in the beginning. It's like, look, either we will be miserable our entire lives because this co-parenting thing doesn't stop at 18, especially with Emilio,
mhm.
or we will choose to be friends and, work it out. So, we're friends most of the time.
Yeah.
Most, not all.
Yeah, no, yeah. But you're definitely parents. Y eso es lo
Yes,
primero.
yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so you talked about Emilio being in a program because of his autism. So walk us through the very beginning stages when he was little. Can you kind of introduce us to that and what were the first signs that you started to notice with him?
So when they were born, everything was normal. I had a relatively good pregnancy, nothing out of the ordinary. When they were born, he would reach all his milestones like right on time. I remember when he was about 8, 9 months, everyone would say like, "Oh, va a hablar bien chiquito," because like all those little words that they start saying, at around that age. And so we were like, oh, va a hablar bien chiquito. And he was like talking more than Sofia. And then at about a year and a few months, I started noticing some things where we had a bookcase with a bunch of books because I used to have time to read, and he would start taking them down and putting them back up in the same orders. So that was kind of like the first that I noticed, but didn't think much of it. And then little by little, at about a year and a half, I noticed that those words that he had, they were gone. They
Mm.
were just gone. He wouldn't say anything. And honestly, I can't even tell you when it happened. Like I just feel like one day he went to sleep and the next day he just wasn't talking anymore. And then another thing that I started noticing was his lack of eye contact. He wouldn't have that eye contact with me anymore. And I spoke to his pediatrician, which she was amazing in this whole process.
Mm.
And she's like, look, there's really not much we can do until he turns 2, because a lot of things are considered normal developmental delays and things like that. She's like,
Sure.
but if by the age of 2 nothing changes, then we'll take care of it. The day that I just knew that something happened or that something was not wrong, but just not as it was before, was for the Christmas before they turned 2. I remember we had given the kids the gifts, and I saw all the kids playing with their toys together. And then I remember seeing in your tia's house, Mio playing all the way in the corner with an animal book.
Mm.
And it just like, it hit me. I just knew it. That day, I just knew that something had happened, something had changed. And I went to his 2-year appointment. His pediatrician was like, okay, they turned 2 February 27th. They have right away sent an early intervention
Mm.
specialist to go evaluate him. And he was by his first therapy on April 1st. They did an amazing job. His pediatrician took it seriously because I feel like sometimes pediatricians could be very like, oh, that's normal. Let's just wait. Let's
Mm-hmm.
just, and she really listened to me. She really listened to me. She respected what I was saying. When I was at the office, I remember she gave me it's like a checklist of like symptoms and different things that like developmental things for kids. And I
Mm.
remember checking those boxes and checking them, and I was like, oh man. Like as I was checking everything, I just knew that something just wasn't going to be as we had not
Mm.
planned it, but as we thought it would be.
Sure.
So yeah, so he started therapy at age 2, right away at age 2.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
And can you walk us through what that looked like? The intervention and the therapies. Did you anticipate it to be a lot different?
When I remember when they did the evaluation at first, they asked us a lot of questions like on
Mhm.
behavior, like sensory things, and how he would get along with his sister, just like what you would think it's questioned for any other child. And based on that, they determined that he needed 3 types of therapy. He needed occupational, behavioral, and speech.
Mm.
So in the beginning, as he turned 2, they would go over to our apartment. He had one session for each type of therapy once a week. So he had
Okay.
therapy 3 times a week.
Wow.
That happened for 2 years. After that, that's when he got evaluated by his specialist. But anyway, sorry, going back to his therapies, they did everything was based on play, really. Like at
Mm.
first I was like, oh my God, there's gonna be these intense therapy sessions and oh my God, what are they gonna do to my kid? But it actually ended up being really fun for
Mm.
them. And I'm saying them because Sophia was always there. So she learned a lot by
Yeah.
that. And the therapists were super fun. They would engage him a lot. So it was a very fun process for him, honestly.
Mm.
And that's actually when we discovered that he knew how to read at age 2.
Mm.
So when the therapist would put letters on a board for him, he was reading them all on his own. We had
Wow.
no idea that he knew how to read because he wasn't speaking. But I remember at the time his favorite cartoon still is Word World. And we didn't know that he was learning to read, watching Word World
Okay.
until he started therapy. And the therapist like, you know, your kid knows how to read, right? I'm like, what? Like it was it was pretty cool to know that he was reading at age 2.
Wow.
Yeah, it
That's
was pretty cool. But
awesome.
yeah, therapy is mostly play, and that's how they
Hmm.
get him to engage in everything. But yeah, it was pretty fun for him and for Sophie too.
Yeah. No, and I love how Sophie was involved in this
Oh yeah,
too.
she thought they were her therapist the whole time. Yeah, yeah.
That's so cute. Yeah. And just how aware that she has been, ¿verdad? Like with that
Hmm.
process. We did talk about like what kind of support you got, but in addition
Hmm.
to those therapies, what other types of help or support did you receive with Emilio? And how did you know where to look for help?
So early intervention is godsend, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
They really take care of everything for you. I was very lucky that one of his therapists was actually an intern with Dr. Mary Keene, which is one of the top neuro specialists, something. I don't know the exact name. So she has a huge waiting list. But
Wow.
because her intern was Emilio's therapist, she was able to get him in to see her. We kind of skipped the line a little bit. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
We kind of skipped the line, and he was actually diagnosed officially on February 25th, and he turned 3 February 27th.
Mm,
So once they officially get diagnosed, the school district takes over.
okay.
So they're in therapy through early intervention, was I believe is a state-run program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once they turn 3 and they get their diagnosis or whatever, there's something called an IEP,
Mm-hmm.
which the preschool system takes over. And back then, I was living in Naperville, and people always think Naperville, oh, it's the best, and maybe it is, maybe it is, not for him. They
Mm,
were their I his IEP was very limited. Oh, by the way, IEP is basically a program where they do like a curriculum kind of thing based on the needs of your child.
mm-hmm.
So at that IEP meeting, he was diagnosed again by the school district. At that time, we moved over to the Bolingbrook area. And once he had the interview there, they were like, oh, this is not enough for him. This IEP is too limited for his needs. Because at that point, he was pretty much nonverbal, like
Mm,
completely nonverbal. But they did have to honor that IEP because it was already done. And they're like, oh, we'll give this IEP a try for a month. 3 days later, they call me and they're like, nope, he needs a lot more help than they had anticipated.
mm-hmm.
And then it kind of just went from there. He received all his therapy, like all the occupational, all those therapies he was now receiving at school. He was going full time to school since he turned 3 at preschool, and
Wow.
they kind of just took over the whole thing. And honestly, it made it pretty easy for me to go through that process because since the beginning, they have been so supportive. Maybe I don't know how the numbers work with school districts and all that stuff, but personally, it has been a blessing to have that school district for him.
Mm-hmm.
And because Sophia's a twin, she was considered high risk. I don't know what that means, but
Mm.
she was able to get free preschool too.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it all ended
Wow.
up working. Hmm.
Yeah. And were they together in the same classroom or were they in separate
No,
classrooms?
no, they were
Okay.
in separate classrooms because him with his classroom is just pretty much kids with autism
Mm-hmm.
or just like general developmental delays. And she was in a gen ed class, but in the same school. They've always been in the same school, but different
Yeah.
class. Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, she's so good. When it comes to cultura and
Hmm.
our Latinidad, were there any obstacles that you had to go through, or do you think that you were lucky to have received the support and the help? Do you imagine that some families are limited either because of language barriers or insurance or where they're located?
We are extremely, extremely blessed and lucky.
Hmm.
In the beginning, I wanted my kids to be bilingual, like we were raised.
Hmm.
I always thought, oh my God, my kids, that they're not going to be like, these kids that don't know Spanish or anything like that. And when we first started the therapy, they're like, oh yeah, there's options for Spanish, but there's a 1 year waiting list.
Wow.
Yeah, to get a Spanish speaking therapist. I was
Wow.
like, look, I don't care if he has to learn Japanese. I don't care what language he's going to learn, but I need him to start his therapies now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got not stuck, but kind of in the whole English language therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, him being born here in the US, me being born here in the US, did have a great impact on it because we went through public aid.
Mm.
Public aid covered everything. So it was easy for me to get them the help that they needed because we have the legal status
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And it really does make me think a lot about families who don't have that legal status, who
Mm-hmm.
can't get public aid, who can't get just private insurance. And even
Mm-hmm.
private insurance, they really don't cover much,
Nope. Nope.
you know? So that's why I always say, I'm like, it's a blessing that we were able to get that help. Now, also, I consider myself very lucky that we are in more of the suburban area of the Chicagoland because I also have friends who live in Chicago whose kids needed IEPs and they're in a waiting list. The services are not available for these kids. That is what struck me as, oh crap, I am very lucky. We are very blessed that I
Mm.
was able to get him into the program that we did at the time that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Because people in CPS are they're waiting, they're waiting for these services that are just not available because there's not enough specialists and therapists to be able to help all the kids.
Yeah.
And another thing that I saw to my advantage was that I was able to communicate with these therapists.
Yeah.
And it's scary enough already, the fact that your child is different or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that he has challenges, it's already difficult and I can communicate with them. I can't even begin to imagine those parents that can't communicate 100% with the therapist. And that's just honestly, that's scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I really do believe that we are very, very blessed that we were able to get that help. But I know there's so many families out there who it's not easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the language barrier.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like knowing who to look for, like in terms of help or support. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It
And
gives
also just your
perspective.
family, because
También.
there is
Mm-hmm.
still a lot of, I don't know if ignorance is the correct word or lack of information, taboo, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to call it, but I know that we're very fortunate that our family is very open about
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But I have seen actually not too long ago, one of Mio's friends had a birthday party. And one of the people that were there, I knew by a friend that person didn't want people to know that their daughter was autistic.
Mm.
And I'm like, why? Why would you want to hide that away from anybody? So I do
Yeah.
believe that cultural issues, taboos is a huge, huge part of the lack of information, the misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of resources. Because sometimes I feel like people in our community are too embarrassed to say, "Oh, my kid is not perfect like
Yep.
all the other kids." They see it as, "Oh my God, my child is autistic. What is wrong with him? What are
Mm-hmm.
people going to say?
Mm-hmm.
What are people going to think that I did wrong?"
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge, huge issue that I have seen in a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you ever responded back or provided like your experience to kind of like normalize
Many
eso?
times,
Yeah.
many
Well, that's
times,
good.
because some people and someone in our family
Mm.
all said once that me and another family friend would share things about autism on Facebook because all we wanted was attention.
What?
Yeah, I'll tell you later who it was.
Okay,
No one too
please.
close. No one too close to us. No one too close to us.
Hmm.
But my thing is, it's not for attention, it's not for pity, it's not for I'm actually pretty shy, and you know that. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. So to me in the beginning, it was difficult to share that. But then I realized that if my story can help another parent be like, oh, this sounds familiar to my kid. And
Mhm.
I've actually given names to the pediatrician. I've given numbers to our school district to people that have come up to me and asked like, oh, where did you get this and this help?
Mm, mhm.
So by me sharing it, and if it helped only one parent, that was worth whatever exposure I was giving out or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, so they would confuse that with wanting attention, but it's to educate people because I don't want
Exactly.
people to go through these things because like I said, I was very fortunate to be able to know where to go. But some
Mhm.
people don't. Some
Right.
people are afraid to even ask their pediatrician
Yes.
what's going on with my kid.
Yes.
So by me speaking out about it, I I believe I was able to help some people
Yeah.
with their child. Hmm.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think it's powerful that you do that porque again in our community, even though we
Hmm.
tend to be super outspoken in certain things, con otras cosas, like we keep it to
Yes,
ourselves.
yes,
Y again, es para apantallar, right? To make it seem like we
yeah.
are perfect, we have these perfect lives or perfect kids. But it's like, no, like, I'm glad that you've been out there and advocating for these
Hmm.
parents, porque a veces either parents don't know where to start or they don't know what to ask. And I'm glad
Hmm.
that you are empowering them to consider whatever that is suitable for their kid.
Push whoever you
Yep.
have to push, honestly, because like I said, I'm very blessed that we had a very good pediatrician, amazing pediatrician that listened and was open-minded to these things, but not everybody is in that situation. So
Mm-hmm.
if you see that people are not paying attention to what you're saying, keep on pushing. Keep on pushing because if you don't, they always say that I'm my son's voice or my child's voice. And in this case, we are literally like for real, their voice because they
Yeah.
can't speak for themselves. And so you have to push whoever you have to, fight with whoever you have to be heard and to get your child the help that they deserve, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
that they need and that they deserve. Because every child deserves to get the help that my son is receiving at the
Yes.
moment. And
Yeah.
that he hopefully he will continue to receive until he's 21
Yeah.
because he will be through the school district until the age of 21.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's great. One of the questions that I had here is like, what kind of advice can you give a Latina mom or a parent about noticing their child's symptoms and when is the right time to seek intervention?
Your pediatrician has to be the person who will refer you to early
Um,
intervention.
okay.
And I would say right away,
Mm-hmm.
right away. If you see, because I know this, we have a lot of this, and you won't let me lie here. El niño va a hablar grande.
Yeah.
Está como la tía de la hija de la prima que habló hasta los 4 años. And it was
Yep.
like, yeah, cool. But my son, él ya hablaba y dejó de
Yes.
hablar.
Yes.
Esa es una de las cosas that you have to really keep an eye on. It's not the fact that they're going to speak older. Kids are different. They say
Mm-hmm.
different things at different times. Cool, like that's not an issue. The issue here was he was speaking and then went back.
Mm-hmm.
But also trust your instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your mom instinct because I know that my sisters and my mom and everybody would say it and I know they did it in the most loving way, but they would say like, "Oh, he'll be fine. He'll catch up." But I just knew something was off. And like I said, I know they did it with the best intentions. I know they did it with all the love in the world, but I decided to not listen. I decided to not listen and seek the information because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to deal with all of this.
Yep.
Me and their dad are the ones who have to deal with it. So I will listen to my gut, and that's what we did. And regardless of what anybody said, like I would even get like, ay, exageras, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but you as a mother and or a father know when something is not, especially for me because I have twins.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge thing for me because seeing a neurotypical child developing compared to her twin brother, that was like a night and day.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like it was there. It was right there in front of my face.
Yes.
And like I said, sometimes people don't, especially in our community, sometimes don't want to realize, porque ¿cómo voy a tener un hijo loco? Because
Mm.
of course that's the thing. O mi hijo
Yeah.
es nada más travieso.
Yes.
Pero ¿cómo voy a decir que mi hijo no es perfecto?
Right.
And it's not about you, it's about your child.
Yes.
And the sooner you recognize that there is something not quite right, the sooner you will get them help and the more chances they have to live the most normal life possible. One thing his doctor told me was that the age is between 2 and 5. Those are the crucial years for therapy
Mm.
because those are the years that kids absorb the most information possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the crucial time for a kid on the autism spectrum to receive therapy.
Mm.
And it's not saying that they can't have therapy later. It, they can have it at any age, but those ages 2 to 5 is the most crucial age to get therapy,
Mm.
to give them the best chance possible.
Yes.
And like I said, the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you stop thinking about yourself and the
Mm.
type of child you would want to have and the type of perfect family you would want to have. It's not about you, it's about your child.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
sooner you just let that idea of the perfect everything go, the better things will be
Mm-hmm.
for your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love this. I think that this speaks so much about just like your advocacy, también like the strength that you've had, and the realization también about just like how did you overcome those cultural norms or expectations that we were set, in and ingrained in us, ¿verdad?
Mhm.
Because you had to obviously like know what was best for your child. And for me, like I've always said, like, you are an amazing mom, but I'm literally gonna say
Thank you.
this, you are. Yeah, you're
Thank
gonna
you.
make me cry.
I know. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, because you knew that your son needed this. And yeah, and now look at him. Like he's just amazing. I love him. And
He talks so much crap now. Because now his new thing is motherfucker.
oh,
That's
oh,
his
that's
new,
so
but he
funny.
uses it at the right moment, which
Okay, so it's not like hi motherfucker or whatever.
oh
Like
no, he's like there's something, oh you motherfucker, and I'm like, Mio, don't. So yeah, I still remember his first swear word. It was a proud moment, even by his therapist. I had a watermelon on top of the kitchen island, and I was like, Emilio, stop playing with it, se va a caer. Emilio, aplácate, se va a caer. And then I'm in the living room, and then all of a sudden I hear the watermelon, and like Patiño, he's like, oh shit, and he runs. That was his very first swear word. And when I told his therapist, he's like, oh my God, he used it the right way. I'm like, I know.
That is so funny. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, he's too smart sometimes.
Yeah, he is. He's a good
Yeah.
kiddo.
But I don't really care what people think. I don't care really. So to me, like any cultural norms or anything never mattered, honestly,
Mm,
because it was about my child.
yes.
This is my kid. It's my responsibility to get him the help that he needs. And I honestly never cared what anybody thought, what anybody would say, and I think that's one thing we really have to start getting over, el que dirán,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, la hija de la vecina, de la prima, de la tía, de whatever, is not going to be there with you
Yep.
dealing with whatever your situation is.
Yes.
They're not going to. You're the one that's going to be there, not them.
Yes.
So you have to do what's best for you and your family, your child, not what
Mm-hmm.
anybody else thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I've always been that way. So now even more.
Yeah.
That's why I've always been like the little rebel.
No, but that's good because
Yeah.
you're being authentic and you
Mhm.
speak your truth, and I
I'm
think
not
that's
going to
always good.
sugarcoat it to please anybody
Nope. Yep.
at all.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep. No.
No.
More power to you. So let's talk about Sophia. You mentioned that she's like neurotypical,
Mhm.
pero a lot of things have kind of come up that you've shared with me. But can
Yeah.
you share with our listeners and kind of explaining what you noticed in the beginning about Sophia?
Well, first of all, she's the most amazing, beautiful, smartest child I could have possibly asked for. She's my little helper. And
Mhm.
and I don't mean it in the way that, oh, she has to help me, because she doesn't. I've never, except right now, I told her keep your brother in the room. But I don't, I never put that responsibility on her. She's
Mm,
always done it on her own.
mm,
And because of my situation growing up with my sister, I understand her. She will always look after him. That's just her instinct, that's her nature, that's how it's going to be.
yeah.
So she's always been really good with him. But lately, not lately, I would say in the last maybe 2 years, I've seen things changing in her. I've seen her be very anxious. She gets overwhelmed very easily. So I started seeing me in her,
Mm,
which started scaring me a little bit because I was diagnosed at 38 with ADHD.
mm,
But I started seeing a lot of her frustrations that I had as a kid. Feeling not good enough because you can't focus, feeling overwhelmed and having a messy room because you don't even know where to start. I would tell her, clean up your room. And she would just start panicking. And I'm like, why are you crying? No te estoy regañando, no te estoy pegando, but I don't know where to start. I'm so overwhelmed. And I was like, damn, that's how I felt my whole life.
mm,
So that's when I started noticing that something was off with her. Not off, but something was going on. She's very fidgety, was having a hard time sleeping.
mm.
I started seeing me as a child in her.
Wow.
And so she's been taken to get evaluated and she started therapy. She doesn't have a diagnosis yet,
Mhm.
especially in children. That takes time, but there is a suspicion of her having ADHD.
Mm,
He has it too. Emilio has it
mm,
too. But we're on it. We're waiting to see what's going on. The school's also been very helpful. The teachers are aware of it and they help her because she gets a lot of anxiety and testing and
mm.
and things like that, more than maybe the other kids do. So yeah, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
There's a plan there, I guess you can say.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's good that as soon as you notice like different
Hmm.
signs y todo eso, like now you're giving her the opportunity to get help, right? And the support
Hmm.
needed. So that way you're building success for her, in terms of whatever she needs.
Because I think back to my time, my mom and dad didn't have that knowledge. They had no idea.
Hmm.
So I would never blame them at all. Like your abuelitos are the best parents anyone could possibly have. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't have that education, that knowledge, that information. Actually, nobody had that information back then. You were just el niño travieso, el niño que no sabía, el niño que, you know. But now me having that, I refuse to have my kids go through the same things that I've had to go through because the information wasn't there.
Mm.
So if I can do absolutely anything in my power to be able to make those things a lot easier for them, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because they deserve it.
Yes.
All kids deserve it. Hmm.
Absolutely. Yes. When it comes to raising twins, And not just twins, but boy, girl, they're both neurodiverse, ¿verdad? One is
Mhm,
neurodivergent, the other one neurotypical. Like,
mhm,
how did you navigate that to ensure que los dos reciben kind of like that personalized attention and I wouldn't say that you are a single parent, right? Because you
mhm.
still
But
co-parent.
yeah, yeah,
But my uncle has always worked. He's always
yeah.
had a busy schedule.
Mhm.
So with you doing this kind of on your own at times, like how did you navigate that?
It's a thing of, first of all, the blessing of having the children that I have.
Hmm.
Because I think maybe other kids in Sophia's case would be jealous of maybe the attention that her brother has to get,
Mm.
or a lot more needy. But she's very independent. She's very independent. She adores her brother. So she's all about him getting the attention. Oh, she gives him all the attention. Oh, because sometimes when I want to correct him in something, she's like, "Mommy, he doesn't understand, okay? Like, leave him alone." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 who's a mommy?" So it does help a lot that Sophia is so understanding and so mature. But also is that I try to do things whenever I can just with her. So for
Mm.
example, if possible, I'll go to eat just with her and Mio will stay with his dad.
Mhm.
So I try to get that one-on-one time with her. Mio sleeps a little bit earlier, which that gives us time to do what she calls snuggle watch,
Oh.
which we're in bed and we're watching TikTok, of course, and we're watching videos just me and her.
Yeah.
So that has really helped for her to still get that one-on-one attention, not feel neglected because obviously he needs more attention
Mhm.
most of the time. But so yeah, I try to give her time just for her as much as possible.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I give her another thing that I try to do because
Mm.
when we go out with other kids to play, she tends to not fully be there because she's so busy watching over him.
Hmm.
And as much as I tell her, Sophie, I'm the mom, I'm gonna take care of him. You go do your thing, you go play. You No, mommy, but I have to take care of him. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, that's what I'm here for. So sometimes I will let her go with the other moms, which I love. She goes with them alone, and I'll stay at home with Mio so that she has her time
Mm.
to just be a 9-year old and play with her friends and not have to deal with anything else.
Yeah.
So I give her that space as much as I can.
Yeah, that's good.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you spend like quality time with
Hmm.
each of them,
Yeah.
together, but I mean separate. And that
Hmm.
way, yeah, you can be present with them, but they can
Hmm.
also be present with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And it's cool because now Sophia's friends know how to take care of Mio. They're hilarious. They're so funny. And like when we go to a playground, they're like, "Oh no, we got him, we got him." They know how to take care of him, and that's pretty cool to see that
Yeah.
she's surrounding herself with kids that have that heart.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know who she will be, but I think she's gonna do big things.
Oh yeah.
Just
Well, I don't know if I've told you this, but their school has gen ed and has what they call a stellar program,
mm-hmm.
which is where all the special needs classes are at. So they have a program where kids from gen ed go with kids in the stellar programs and they have like playtime. They call it like
Oh.
social time. So her teachers nominated her
Oh.
so it's every Thursday or Friday for an hour. They go and they pick up their friend to their class and they go into like a playroom. And that gives the kids in Stellar program the opportunity to socialize with gen ed kids to help them socialize at an age appropriate way. So they're not always
Mm.
just with the Stellar program kids. They get to have gen ed friends just like any other kid.
That is so nice.
So she's been doing that and she's been making friends like that. And next week we're actually having a play date with one of Emilio's Stella program friends and with all
Mhm.
of Sophia's Gen Ed friends. So pray for us. We'll see how
Oh,
that
that's
goes.
awesome. You should take a
So,
little flask with you or something like.
oh God, yeah. For their birthday party. That should be interesting. Because for the first
Yeah.
time we're gonna have both friends. I don't know
Yeah.
how that's gonna go, but
Oh my gosh. That's fun.
pray.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's doing that program right now.
Okay. That's so
Yeah,
good. Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing Emilio's story, Sophie's story. Thank you for tuning in to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you like this episode, make sure to leave a review and write what episode really resonated with you. If you really loved it, share it on social media or with an amiga. As always, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening. Make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be replaced by your healthcare provider nor taken as professional advice.